Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect fad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. Welcome back to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. Isla is here, your founder, CEO, and co-host, myself. And today, Courtney is joining us, Coach Courtney from our team, and we're going to talk about hypothyroidism. So thank you so much for joining us, Courtney.
Hello, glad to be back.
Yeah, so Courtney and I take most of the hypothyroidism clients. Thought it would be interesting for us to kind of go over some of our hypothyroidism clients and talk about the intricacies of what it looked like to work with them. I think there's a lot of misconceptions around hypothyroidism and what it does to weight loss. And so hopefully we can kind of clear that up for some people to kind of give you some hope or what it can look like to work with a dietitian if you do have hypothyroidism. Our previous hypothyroidism podcast episode is the most listened to ever out of all of our podcasts, and it's super comprehensive. So this won't be like a what is hypothyroidism, what can you do type of thing. This will just be more of like a case study presentation, but I would strongly encourage you to go check that episode out if you feel like you need a more overview of what hypothyroidism is, what you can do to treat it, stuff like that. But first, how have you been doing, Courtney? How are your clients doing? Any success stories, anything fun going on in your life?
Yeah, as far as clients go, I guess this is just more of like a general success, but I didn't realize February was such a big travel month, but I have like a ton of clients traveling right now, and I was worried about how that was going to go, but just through like planning ahead in advance, having the right snacks on hand. Most everybody's been able to like still meet their goals while traveling. So yeah, I was happy about
Awesome.
that.
What are some of
Um,
their favorite traveling snacks to meet their goals?
Definitely. I mean, protein bars are always a go-to. I'm a huge fan of like dried edamame, and they have
Mhm.
like the seasoned ones that are like buffalo or sriracha, nuts, some fruits like bananas are always really portable. But yeah, just planning ahead in advance, and then also like looking up the restaurant menus that they're going to be going to in advance has been super helpful. That way they can kind of plan it into the rest of their calorie and macro goals for the day. What about you? Have you had any fun client stories lately?
Yeah, let me think. I feel like I just started with I kind of took a break with taking a bunch of clients because I was gone for that like crazy month and a half. And then I just got a bunch of new clients. A lot of mine are newer. But I think one of my clients who I know is an avid listener to the podcast, so hopefully she knows who she is. She's doing amazing. She's like already at like 6% of her weight loss, and we still have 2 more weeks together. I normally have a goal for my clients to lose 5%. And so she's already like well above that. And we haven't even really started working on exercise too much yet. And so that's just been really exciting. I keep asking her over and over again, like, what does she feel like the difference is, so that she knows what she's actually doing? And she just said it's helped so much to have a structure as opposed to like pulling pieces from different diet plans and then just like getting so overwhelmed that she just eats whatever's in the fridge anyway because she doesn't have time to decide what diet she wants to follow that day. So by giving like a just, okay, where's your produce and where's your protein on your plate? She can just make sure to go to the fridge, assemble something, and then get back to work. But were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I feel like a ton of people have that issue just 'cause there's so many different like crazy diets being promoted out there on the internet. And so people will just kind of pick up pieces along the way, and then they feel like they need to be following all these different super strict plans, and they sort of, like you said, push themselves to the brink where they're like, I can't think about this anymore. So yeah, just having like a simple structure where you know that you can still fit in any foods that you want to include, I think is really freeing for a lot of people.
Yeah, because especially for her, I mean, and for everybody, I think that one thing that other diets kinda get wrong is I don't think there's a whole lot of flexibility, but everybody has very different food backgrounds and food preferences, and she doesn't even enjoy eating meat too much. She eats it, to, like, meet her goals, but we've been able to kinda do some fun stuff with trying to get her to not have as many supplements because she didn't really want to. We're focusing on some non-meat days, so it just is cool that she can still eat pretty much everything she wants, but just shift around a couple of things to meet her weight loss goals. But any foods that you've been enjoying recently that you can kinda share or any, like, wellness, anything, any new, like, ways of exercising or moving your body or anything like that?
Yeah, food-wise, I've really been, back into getting a lot of meal kits here recently. I've been feeling sort of like the winter slump here lately,
Mm.
so I've been kind of just not really feeling doing a whole lot of extensive food preparation. So I've really been leaning on meal kits recently. Also, just anything I can throw together in the crock pot and like forget about for the rest of the day, like chilies or taco soups. I'm really big on. So yeah, just simple, easy meal prep while I'm waiting anxiously for spring to get here.
I know. Do you still do the same meal prep kit that you talked about a while back, or have you tried a new one?
No, Hungry Root's still been the one that has been my go-to, and I've had a few clients sign up for it as well, and they seem to really like it because their specialty is really just those like quick prep meals.
Oh.
And so like they have a ton of options that are like less than 20 minutes to prepare. Um
Oh, maybe I should look into it, yeah, because 'cause I'm in, like, such I don't know if you ever get like this. I feel like I'm, like, in a very, like, anti-food time. Like, not that I'm not eating, but I just, like, am tired of picking up the food, and I'm tired of going to the grocery store. I'm tired of, like, cooking, and so I just keep kinda doing, like, very simple, like, almost like raw foods, like a lot of salads, which is totally fine, but it's kind of fun to get excited about food too. So maybe that'd be a good idea for me to try to get excited about because I used to do those meal kits, but I think I always picked the ones that were the most intricate, and then they would take, like, an hour and a half, and then I'd get burnt out.
yeah, yeah, Hungry Root, they a lot of times already have like the sauces or like the seasoning mixes ready. So all you really have to do is like saute some veggies, maybe cook some meat and kind of throw everything together. But then they have enough like flavor
Mhm.
variation where it doesn't get boring.
Cool, cool. I think for mine is, I found these at Aldi. I've been getting back into Aldi, and so speaking of, like, edamame, these are, roasted broad beans. They were in, like yeah, they were in Aldi's special area, and, they're bada bean, bada boom, and these are the flavor that my husband picked out. I don't really like spicy things, but they had, like, the best flavor that was, like it tasted like I don't know if you've ever had the pretzels that are, like, honey mustard pretzels.
Mhm.
Yeah, they tasted just like that. They were called, like, sweet onion and mustard or something. And then they reached out to me after I talked about them and actually gave us a discount code. So if anybody's interested in trying them, because I honestly don't know where they're sold at in store. I know that like Aldi section, like you sometimes can never find anything again. So the discount code, I just had it up. Go to our link www.badabeansnacks.com/ the millennial nutritionist. And we do get a little bit of an affiliate link off of this or commission, but you also get 15% off using the millennial nutritionist. That's awesome. And these can really help you to, I mean, I think my clients struggle with finding like shelf stable, savory, high protein snacks. And this kind of feel like checks off all of those things. One serving is 6 grams of protein and 4 grams of fiber and 110 calories, which is crazy. I feel like that's hard to come by.
Yeah, I'll have to try those. That flavor that you mentioned sounds really good.
Yeah, yeah, because I like the edamame ones too, and chickpeas are good too, but it's nice to try all the different ones. Do you feel like you're tired of trying every new diet out there whenever you're ready to lose weight, but you never really find long-term success because it's either too restrictive or just not conducive to your lifestyle? Well, then let me tell you about our 3-month lifestyle reset program. This is an individualized weight loss approach where you'll be going through our proven 6-step method and you'll be led by a registered dietitian. By becoming a client of the program, you'll be able to learn how to control your weight, increase your energy and confidence, and also improve your overall well-being. Not to be dramatic, but a lot of clients tell us that they actually change their lives by going through the program and finally find a sustainable weight loss solution when they actually haven't found that with any other program. If you are interested in becoming a client, sign up for a discovery call on our website, themillennialnutritionist.com, with me, Isla Garcia, and I'll help match you with one of our registered dietitian coaches based off of your challenges and their nutrition expertise. If you're ready to find a sustainable weight loss solution in a non-judgmental and encouraging environment, I hope you'll connect with us soon. But moving into our article today, so this article was picked out by our Instagram audience. So Ozempic is everywhere. I feel like we've been talking about it for a while, and then I think, finally caught on, and now everybody's talking about it. So we will continue to talk about it. And this article is a little bit different. It is from Buzzfeed News, and it is titled, "These celebrities have spoken out about Ozempic and other drugs used for weight loss, including a few who said they have taken them." So it kind of goes through some of the celebrities who are on semaglutide. I think I finally figured out how to pronounce the word. And ones that say that they're not taking it, and kind of a run through. It says that Elon Musk, Chelsea Handler, and Remy Bader have all admitted to taking it. I saw a video on Chelsea Handler, and she actually didn't realize she was even taking it. Her doctor was just like, gave her some, or maybe she didn't know what she was even taking. And then somebody told her that's what she was taking. And she's like, oh, I have no idea. Elon Musk says that he definitely has taken it to lose weight. And Remy Bader said that she was on it and actually caused a little bit of controversy because she does have, or she says that she has binge eating disorder. And so it said it kind of caused her to gain weight back. I don't know if it was related to unresolved binge eating disorder or if it was related to under eating or whatever. But, she has come out and said that. The people who have been speculated to be taking it but are not are Khloe Kardashian, Kyle Richard. Rosie O'Donnell said that she is not taking Ozempic, but she is on Mounjaro, which is very similar. And then a couple of other celebrities in the bottom have spoken out against it, but they're not taking it. They're just kind of criticizing others for taking it. And then there was an interesting one at the bottom. So Jackie, what is her last name? We talked about her forever ago. She's a housewife on New Jersey who has admitted she has struggled with anorexia on or off for a really long time. Jackie Goldschneider. And she said that it is an eating disorder and a needle, which at first I was like, oh my gosh, why would you say that? But I guess I kind of see what she's saying because people typically do eat very low. But I mean, there are differences between an eating disorder and taking medication. But what is your kind of thought about the whole thing or any parts of it or the end of it?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the things that's a little bit, I guess, frustrating about it to me is celebrities that are just taking it to lose a quick 10 pounds, whereas this is something that's been really helpful for people with diabetes, pre-diabetes, or even people who are super morbidly obese and need an option before doing something like gastric bypass surgery. So just the fact that we don't have a consistent enough supply to meet the demand of all these people just wanting to quickly lose weight, and that diabetes patients who actually need it are being affected by that. But also, if you're using this to lose weight, just because it slows down gastric emptying, so it slows down food moving through your digestive tract, it basically just makes you feel not hungry. And, I've seen other articles of people saying, they felt disgusted by food. So I guess the outcome is similar to an eating disorder, while an eating disorder is something more happening mentally. This is more causing a physiological reaction that's causing you to feel disgusted by food, but in a way, the outcome can be similar in some cases.
Yeah, I think especially with, like, the malnutrition part, I wasn't even really thinking about that. Like, I was telling a friend, and she's a surgeon, and I was telling her, I was like, "Oh, you like, have you like have people in your group been like recommending this? I hear a lot of doctors are starting to recommend it." And she's like, "Well, no, I've never heard of it." So, but then I told her, I was like, "Yeah, and like, I mean, people are eating a very low amount of calories. I wish that people would come out and say more about that part because I'm interested to see like, are they eating a healthy amount? Like, some people that I work with, they can barely eat over like 700 calories a day, which is, I feel like, very unsafe. And so she was saying that, oh, so like if somebody were to come to me to have surgery, like I don't even know if they could because they'd probably be malnourished, which they have really bad outcomes on surgery. And then I don't know, that part is a little scary to me that I don't know what's being said about on the back end of education being like, yeah, but you still need to make sure you're eating enough for safety, for disease prevention, for making sure your immune system is good. So all these things. And so on that part where Jackie said that's like an ED and a needle, yeah, I can understand where it's like if you're still eating a very low amount, it's still not safe there. But yeah, not quite the same as having like a whole psych situation with that. But again, I think it's interesting that these medications, although they're a little bit newer, like we've had weight loss medications for a while. Like phentermine has been around for so long, and I don't know whatever happened to it. I don't know if it just it wasn't marketed anymore or what happened, but I think these things just like come and go with time. And so hopefully with a little bit more time, this just kind of goes away too, because it's very expensive. I think that's why a lot of celebrities are doing it too. And for most people that don't have diabetes, it's also not covered by insurance. So it's definitely not like, I don't think a realistic solution for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And with all of the supply shortages that are happening, I mean, the initial research that we have, obviously, like most things, more research needs to be done, but the initial research does seem to show that people kind of gain the weight back when they go off of it. So it's like if people are eating these super low calorie diets and getting malnourished, they might be okay for a short block of time, but I mean, are they going to just continue taking this medicine for the rest of their life? And then what's that going to look like in terms of their nutrition and overall health?
I know. I wanna look into more of that too, because I wonder what long term what would happen. I mean, I still don't feel like I fully understand the mechanism of everything and then what that would mean for, like, long term. I don't know if, like, eventually it does have like, wreak havoc on your endocrine system. It's interesting, but yeah, all in all, my opinion always is, like, I'm not totally against it, I'm just, like, against not also putting in the work on, like, making sure you do have good eating habits so that if you ever were to get off of it, you're still healthy and you still know what to do. Do you feel like the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with most things in nutrition and weight loss, it's a very individualized case by case basis where you want to work with like your doctor and a dietitian to kind of figure out what the best approach for you personally is going to be.
Okay, moving on to our main topic here, hypothyroidism. So again, we have a super comprehensive podcast that I encourage everybody to go listen to. Maybe we can include it in the show notes. But we can dive into our first kind of audience question about hypothyroidism, or really the only audience question we kind of got, which was, is there something you can do to get off medication if you have hypothyroidism? And from what I actually didn't know this answer, so I kind of looked it up early this morning. And what I thought, which is actually correct, is that not really. I don't know. Because if you have hypothyroidism, like there is, like your thyroid really isn't working. And from what I understand, it's not like something you did. It's just, it kind of happens, or it's a genetic or something like that from what we have going on in the US. So unfortunately, if you do have true hypothyroidism, the research says you do have to take it. When I looked over multiple websites, they all cited this like one study that said that they did take a lot of people off of it in this study, and then 30% were actually okay, like their thyroid levels were fine, but it seemed like they were saying that they might have not had true hypothyroidism anyway. So if you are wondering if that's you, they just encourage you to talk to your doctor about if this is a possibility for you. But what I kind of saw is if you do have true hypothyroidism, you do have to continue to take medication, or your thyroid will go back to how it was being dysfunctional. Is that what you understand about that question too?
Yeah, in certain like still developing countries where they don't have as wide of food availability as we do here in the US, they can get hypothyroidism from like low intake of iodine foods. But because in the US, most everyone is using iodized table salt and getting, the different like meats and dairy products that contain iodine, very, very unlikely that a nutrient deficiency is what's causing your hypothyroidism. Much more likely that there's just some sort of dysfunction going on, and you'll likely need to continue on with your medication just because that's what's going to help your levels stay where they need to be.
Yeah, that's a good point that like that's the only really it seems like nutrition interaction or like cause that you could like maybe eat um to figure that out, but I don't think like you said I've never really seen a client that has hypothyroidism because they don't have enough iodine. And I didn't know, I looked on this article which we can link that let's see. It says that untreated hypothyroidism is one of the reversible causes of dementia, which is good and bad. So, like, just to say, like, if you don't treat it, like, there are things that can happen. So, it's not one of those things where, like, nutrition is going to solve all your problems and then you don't have to take the medication anymore, because it does have long term implications. But as long as you take, looks like as long as you take your medication, then you can possibly prevent getting dementia. So that's interesting. So, what I wanted to do today was kind of go over some of our clients that have had hypothyroidism and kind of explain a little bit about them. The main thing that I was kind of hoping we would be able to achieve is just to kind of show some of the intricacies and some of the normalcies that they may be similar or different to clients who don't have hypothyroidism. Because sometimes I have clients with hypothyroidism and I honestly forget they even have it because they are so much similar to the rest of my clients. And sometimes I'm like, oh, this really could be causing a change in your metabolism. So I'll start with a client and then you can go with a client and then I'll have my last client and we can wrap it up. So my first client was that I'm going to describe. She's a client that I had within like the first 6 months of business. I think so. So when I was all by myself, and she approached me, and she really needed some help. She was super desperate. She had been diagnosed with Hashimoto's and just had like felt like she said she was like reading everything online, all the things, and tried a bunch of different eating plans and nothing was working. Her weight was continuing to go up. And so I said, okay, look, come on, let's go ahead and work together. A little bit of background about her. She used to work, I think, in fashion in New York City. And then I started this business like kind of during lockdown. So she was my client kind of when all that was going on. So she was one of those that was affected in that industry. She went to work remote instead. And then she ended up just moving back to, I believe, her parents' home in North Carolina. So that's an important piece of her story because she told me that she used to walk, I think it was like from Brooklyn to Manhattan every day for work and then back. And that's a ton of steps. I think a lot of people in big cities don't realize how much walking impacts their weight management. And so then when she came to live in North Carolina, she really didn't walk at all. And so that's a big difference in calorie burn. She was in her early 30s, just for reference. Before she started working with me, like when she was living in New York, she was super active. I think she would walk that much. And then she also loved kickboxing. And of course, that all stopped when lockdown happened. I think she moved home. She had a death in her immediate family, so she had a lot of trauma with that, and then also was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So that's like the autoimmune condition that can bring on multiple things, one of which can be hypothyroidism. Through this, she gained a lot of weight. I think she was gaining weight, and then she went to the doctor, got tested, and then found out she had it. So then she struggled for a little bit and during that year to find the right dose of medication during that time. Like she was just continuing to be frustrated, which I understand, to find the medication that's going to stop her weight gain. When she came to me, she was 166 pounds and 5'9", just for reference. And she said she had never struggled with weight before. She felt like She grew up really loving her body. I don't think she said that she was like super thin, but she felt like she was athletic, muscular. She enjoyed being active and had a body that kind of reflected that lifestyle. But now she was kind of feeling like none of her clothes fit. She had a whole wardrobe she said that she couldn't fit into anymore. And so it seemed like she had a healthy goal that she just wanted to get back to like feeling good and feeling fit. When she started working with me, though, one other big thing that kind of came up was I don't know if this is a consequence of just like not really moving a lot or what, but she was kind of like barely eating. She wasn't eating a whole lot. I think she was eating around like 1,000 calories. She said that she just never was really big into food all the time. Like she would love dinners, but she just didn't really care too much about other foods. So she just didn't really pay attention to what she ate. So she didn't know if she was eating like that before she started tracking with me. But that was a little bit like, okay, maybe there's like some sort of metabolism thing at play. She was exercising like outside of no walking. She did hit style workouts for I think like an hour, 4 days a week, which was sometimes can be hard for people with some sort of like inflammatory issue. But she again, no walking at all. And then also an interesting part, she kind of became nocturnal when she moved back home, which I think everybody's schedule kind of got crazy during lockdown. She would just wake up to go to her meetings, during the day, and then she'd go back to sleep and then do the majority of her work at night. So that definitely impacted, like, her ability to walk during the day and stuff like that. She did eat, I would say, like, pretty healthfully, and I think that's most of our clients too. It's not like our clients are out here eating fast food and, like, having lots of soda. There's not, like, huge obvious things, but a lot of, like, little things that we can just change. But I did notice that she wasn't eating a lot of protein and she wasn't eating enough produce, which would make sense if she's just not eating a lot of food in general. So, what I think her main challenge was before she started working with me, like, why she wasn't able to lose weight is first of all, there was like no extra activity, like I was saying, besides the 4 days of exercise. Eating enough produce is especially important for people who have thyroid conditions because the thyroid is responsible for metabolism. It's responsible for metabolizing different vitamins and minerals. So we do want to try to optimize that with some of the food that we're eating to help it run a little bit better with giving it more vitamins and minerals. And then she just wasn't eating enough. So we definitely had to work on that. So the way that I helped her was I gave her a calorie recommendation. I don't remember what it was. Her weight did initially increase, which is never fun. So we were trying to just work on maybe figuring out if there was some metabolism thing at play since she was eating so little. And then we kind of switched to a paleo approach, which my like first step with this is to look at maybe removing gluten and dairy about halfway through because she was kind of doing the steps. She was doing the fruits and vegetables and it wasn't working. So there's little research studies that suggest that it could help. So that's when I start playing around with these things that aren't as evidence based. And her weight did start going down. The only hard thing is to know, is it like, did all the previous interventions just take 6 weeks to kick in? Or is it really like she had some sort of intolerant to gluten and dairy or something? So at this point, she was doing her 10,000 steps. She was eating produce. She was eating enough protein. And then we were looking at decreasing her gluten and dairy. And I was helping her eat more. I was really helping her to understand why eating more was so important. So I nailed down that it's just unsafe to eat that little. We want to complement the strength training she's doing to increase metabolism. And we have to do that through just giving the body more and just giving it more vitamins and minerals through food. I helped her really think through protein foods she liked to eat. So eggs and thinking of lots of plant-based proteins because she didn't really like eating meat, which is totally fine. And then she thought of ways to eat this outside of cooking it because she really didn't like cooking. So she found a smoothie place on the way to her gym that she got every day that helped her get in a couple servings of produce and a serving of protein that she could easily do. She was starting to eat more for breakfast and she noticed that her energy increased, which of course helped her to have more steps during the day. And it also helped her to be a little bit more productive and happy during her workday, which was nice. She blocked off time to take walks. And then I also helped her to think of produce options she liked since she was low on that, like cherries, watermelon, fruits that she previously thought she couldn't eat because they were like too high in sugar, which a lot of people think. Throughout this whole journey, it was really cool. Her weight went from 166 to 168. Honestly, it held there for like a month to 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden, the last end, her weight went from 168 to 157. So we kind of just kept pushing through things and then it all came down. I think the biggest lesson from her was under eating is not the answer when it comes to weight loss, whether she's doing it on purpose or not. It doesn't really help, at least what we see with clients. Make sure that you are walking because I think that was a big thing. I do get a lot of clients that move from big cities to smaller towns, and then they don't realize how much walking can impact their calorie burn day to day. and then just like don't give up and keep trying new things. And I actually want to read, she left a testimonial where she kind of talks about this. So this is kind of long, bear with me. So now into my 30s, I found it quite difficult to maintain my younger body, not to mention recently being diagnosed with hypothyroidism. I thought I would be stuck with this new size forever. Thankfully, I found Isla. I enrolled in the 12-week private program, and I will say it's the best decision I've made. When I first started the program, I was discouraged the weight wasn't falling off. I thought the hyperthyroidism was going to prohibit me from ever getting back to my goal, but I was wrong. It took a little bit of time, but we were able to find a plan that worked best for me. Currently, I've lost 11.2 pounds. Most of the weight dropped in the second month. I have learned so much about macros and weekly calorie intake versus daily. I'm very excited to continue this journey until I reach my goal. On a personal level, Isla has been a great upbeat aura, which really helped me on the days I wasn't in the highest of spirits. I'd recommend this program to anyone who needs the extra push in the right direction. Just remember you have to do your part too. So yeah, she really, I mean, she tried a lot of things before she even came to me. And then when she came to me, there were weeks where she was kind of sad if it wasn't working at first, but she just really kept trying and never fully gave up. And finally, we found kind of the right formula. Um, we basically did the same stuff that I do with everybody, and it worked.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And it's great that she was able to stay open and stay willing to continuing to try different things until you guys found the right combo of things that worked for her. Because I think sometimes if, and it goes for any client, not even just hypothyroid clients, if we start out somewhere and the weight doesn't immediately start going down, sometimes we need to make an adjustment, whether that be with your macros, your fiber intake, your calories, your exercise, your steps, and what works for one person, even if they're the exact same height, weight, age, health status, is not necessarily going to be what works for the next person. Our bodies are so complex and there's so much going on all at once that sometimes it does take that little bit of trial and error to figure out the exact right combination that's going to get the ball rolling.
You tell us your client story.
Yeah, so one of my hypothyroidism clients, she was an elementary school teacher in sort of like a medium-sized town. I think it might have been kind of like a suburb to a slightly bigger city. She was in her early 30s and she had been diagnosed with hypothyroidism since about age 20. So she had it for a while and her thyroid hormone levels had been stable for a while. She was around 5'1" and around like 162 when we started. And in the couple years prior, or for several years prior, I believe, she had been kind of maintaining consistently between like 135 and 145. But over the course of maybe like a year and a half, she gained up to that 162. And she didn't really understand why, because she felt like her meals were mostly the same and, that things hadn't really changed that much overall. As far as like her nutrition and exercise before we started working together, she ate pretty like healthy-ish meals most of the time. She would usually include some protein, some produce at most of her meals, but throughout the day, she probably wasn't overall getting enough of either. Being a teacher, she worked with like younger kids, I think like first or second grade, and they would have a ton of like in class parties, whether for like birthday parties for the kids, parents bringing in food items for teacher appreciation, school funded events. And she really kind of had the mindset of something's here and I don't have it, I'm going to feel deprived. And she wasn't doing any strength training when we started working together. She got maybe about 5,000 steps just throughout her day at work, in her classroom. And then 2 or 3 times a week, she would kind of go for like a longer walk, either by herself or like hanging out with a friend. As far as her like biggest challenges, I think the less than healthy snacking had kind of like started to creep up over time. Like maybe she had always had some of those less than healthy foods available at school because she'd been a teacher for a while. But I think through some like stress that she dealt with in her personal life, it kind of triggered some more of that like stress snacking. And when she's constantly having stuff available at work or being sent home with like these sugary snacks, stuff is just always on hand. And sweet cravings were one of her biggest challenges. So obviously those high sugar foods aren't great for anybody, and specifically in people with hypothyroidism, they can be even a little bit more sensitive to like high inflammation levels, and that can actually affect the transfer of like T4 to T3. So the transfer of like inactive thyroid hormone into active thyroid hormone. So for those clients, like focusing on trying to decrease those foods that can cause inflammation and increase the intake of anti-inflammatory foods it's important for everybody, but they can be even a little bit more important to really hone in on for the hypothyroidism clients, and focusing on like those lower glycemic carbohydrates that are going to have more fiber and less like processed sugar. So for her, what really helped was prioritizing which sweets and like processed foods she really wanted versus what ones she was just kind of having because they were there. And so allowing herself to have maybe a couple treats per week so she didn't feel deprived, but then also having healthy snacks on hand so that she had an alternative and didn't feel like she had to say yes to everything that was there. And also, she didn't track before, so tracking was a big help with staying in a deficit. I think before with her eating, she had been able to just kind of stay at maintenance. But as her stress levels in her personal life started to increase, those between meal snacks just really started to add up. She also hated strength training when we started working together, and that was really hard for her to get into in the beginning. She just felt like it was too much effort to get up early and go to the gym, or to go to the gym after she got home from work. So we started slowly incorporating just like one day of strength training, like at home, body weight based per week for just like 15 or 20 minutes. And then we slowly worked her up to doing like 3 days per week at about like 20 to 30 minutes of working out. Because in the beginning, we started her out at maybe like 18 to 1900 calories, and her weight was mostly maintaining. And so then we needed to drop it down to about 1600 to 1700. And she was losing weight, but she felt kind of deprived and like she, was getting a little bit of between meal hunger. So once we worked in some activity that she could do without absolutely like dreading it and hating it, we were able to go back to the slightly higher calorie range and her lose weight at that amount. And at the start, like I mentioned, she was around 162, and the first few weeks were a little bit slow going. But when we dropped those calories down and then later added in the exercise, she ended up around like 155 at the end. Yeah, and so nutrition wise and exercise wise, those were the things that really helped. She also, in our time working together, started working with a therapist so she could kind of work through some of her like food issues, like, maybe connected to like her past and her childhood, and that had been triggered by the stress that was going on in her life. And that kind of helped her feel like she didn't just have to say yes to every single like sweet treat that's available to her.
Wow. Okay. So again, yeah, I hear you saying like the fundamentals of our program, but then keeping in mind like little things that could make a difference for somebody specifically with hypothyroidism, like thinking about those like concentrated sweets and foods without fiber. But all in all, it sounds like you kind of ran through like the same kind of steps. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, because like I mentioned, she was one of those clients who had been diagnosed with hypothyroidism like a little bit over like 10 years before we started working together.
Mhm.
So her levels had been mostly balanced. So it didn't seem to be like a huge factor impacting things. I really think it was more of just excess snacking kind of creeping in. But those high sugar, like refined carbohydrate foods can be sometimes even more impactful on somebody with hypothyroidism.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think it's so different. Yeah, even saying that, I think like some hypothyroidism clients, they are susceptible and some are not. And that kind of feeds into my last example. So this is a client who had hypothyroidism, and I honestly forgot she even had it. When I was thinking of my like second person, I was like, I think this client had it, and then I went through and yes, because I think we brought it up one time in the very beginning and then never brought it up again. So for her background, so she was a little bit of an older client. So she was a working mom of two who had a history of hypothyroidism. She was diagnosed at age 20, but when she came to me, she was 38 years old. So had hypothyroidism for a long time. Levels had been stable for a very long time. She worked from home in sales, so another sedentary job like my other client. She came to me and she was 147 pounds and 5'5". So she didn't like have a whole lot of weight to lose, but she was just kind of frustrated and she wanted some tips on what to do to get the scale moving in some way. Again, I don't think she had really struggled with weight. She'd had two kids. So she said like her highest weight when she was pregnant was 175 with the baby inside. But she was frustrated that she had lost the weight down to 147 over the course of like so many years, but was frustrated that the scale stopped moving. So that's why she kind of came to us. So before her diet was pretty good, unlike my other client. She really liked all healthy foods. She liked eating fruits and vegetables. She liked protein. I think for her, it just kind of came down to consistency because she wasn't tracking. She didn't know what portion sizes she was eating. And she also didn't know how consistent she really was with the healthy habits that we already tell people to do. So she was exercising 5 days a week. So again, one of these people that thought she was doing everything and just didn't know what was up. But she wasn't doing any additional walking. Again, typically in my second week, I start looking at protein and she was already meeting her protein goal. So we just went ahead and skipped to looking more at fruits and vegetables and walking. I'll kind of get into what we did in a minute, but I think one of her biggest challenge too, why she like wasn't successful before she started working with me was that I just don't think she was very consistent. She was very social. She had lived in the town that she was currently in for a very long time. Her and her husband had a lot of friends, and I swear they traveled like every single weekend to either the mountains or the beach or something like that. So her weekdays were pretty good, but then the weekends were just like all over the place, and she just was unaware of what she was doing. She also just wasn't eating enough produce. She, of course, liked it, but it didn't mean that she was eating enough throughout the day when push came to shove. And then also the walking, she wasn't walking enough considering she had a sedentary job like myself. So we started getting her walking a little bit more. She actually lived in walking distance to the gym. So it was easy for her to make it a habit to walk to the gym, go do her exercise, and then walk back. We found a routine that actually worked for her and I wrote it down. So her walking plan or like formula was she did 10 minutes first thing in the morning. By 2 to 3 p.m., she made sure she got in 5,000, she was at the 5,000 step mark by being able to go walk to the gym. And then she did a 10 to 20-minute walk at the end of the day. And that can be as simple as it needs to be for people who who work from home. She also made sure she went on long walks on the weekend with her family since she didn't really exercise to make sure she still got on those steps there and was really consistent. But with the walking, we just increase it slowly every week because some people get really nervous by that 10,000 step number, especially if you're only starting at like 3,000. And we just did like every week, kind of added on 1,000 and tried to figure out where can you add on 10 more minutes, where can you add on 10 more minutes. And eventually she was like well above the 10,000 mark. The interesting thing with her is that her weight was coming down in the beginning and then it stopped coming down. So we did everything we could besides decrease the calories, like making sure all the nutrition was optimal and the exercise. And she was doing everything. She kind of was consistent for 6 weeks, which is my general rule for myself before I decrease calories for people. We did end up decreasing the calories by 200. She was well above her basal rate, so it was fine for me to do that for her. And then her weight started coming down again. So that was the only kind of like mishap that we had to figure out. I made sure that she wasn't hungry. I made sure that she was still having energy. That's the main things I look at when we start coming down on calories. And she said that she was fine. She just had to take out one less snack a day. So how I feel like I helped her is I of course helped her to bring her calories down in a safe way when she was stuck, which she might have not been able to do successfully without me. But we had all those other things that we were already doing before anyway. So I think that also helped. I gave her lots of ideas for getting in more produce, especially when she was eating out and foods that she actually liked. So I think when a lot of people go out to eat, they don't think about that they still need to be present with their nutrition and getting in produce and protein. So we would always pull up menus before she went out on the weekend and looked at what would be good choices until she got into a good rhythm with picking out foods herself. And then I just really helped her to stay accountable with her step goal. More details on her traveling, because I think this was the biggest difference for her is that she also tried to be very aware of portion sizes, which is hard when you eat out, but we just really reinforce like looking at your hand, which I tell a lot of clients to do,
Mhm.
trying to visualize, do you have a cup of rice on your plate? Do you have half a cup? And then trying to track that way. And then every time she traveled, she tried to bring like an emergency protein and emergency produce. So kind of like you were talking about at the very beginning of this episode, like having those things on hand when you travel for her that were a lot of protein bars, a lot of protein shakes, fruits. She even said like one example is I think she either had a mountain house or knew somebody with a mountain house. So she would always go to this cabin. And she said that she would like stay up late playing games with friends and she would typically just sit there and eat what everybody else ate, which was a lot of chips. And she said she even caught herself and she was like, I can still eat right now, but I'm just going to eat a fruit. And so every time she would eat, she's gotten the habit of asking herself, is there a way that she can make it produce instead of just what everybody else was eating? And so all those little changes really added up over time. And her weight went from 146 to 139. And so she was only 1 pound away from the 5% target that I have for my clients. And since she was a smaller size, this made a big difference on her body with the amount of body fat that she lost. So I think the biggest takeaway from somebody like her is that eat more produce when you eat out. She just wasn't really thinking that she could do it or should do it when she went out to eat for restaurants. So we just made sure every time she ate, add a salad, add some steamed broccoli, get a Brussels sprout appetizer, something like that. Looking at portion sizes, I find that when clients eat a healthy diet before, a big common theme of why they're not losing weight is just because they're eating a lot of food, even if it's healthy food. Food has calories. If you eat a lot of it, it's going to make you go over your calorie limit. And then walking more, same as my first client. If you're somebody like a teacher, like your client, you don't have to worry about it. But anybody with a sedentary job, walking can be a very easy way to burn calories. But those are, I feel like all those clients were kind of very different in their, it sounds like their challenges, but it sounds like we all kind of gave them like a personalized plan. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. That last client that you mentioned, I find that I've had several clients who their habits on the weekend are like so different than their
Hmm.
habits throughout the week. And that's really what's preventing their weight loss. So finding a way where they can still go out with friends and enjoy themselves and like partake in foods they really want to enjoy, but while not letting it outdo their calorie deficit for the week or without completely throwing out their produce goal or their walking goal can really be the key is just making sure that the weekend isn't going so off the rails compared to the regular week.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you can't have fun, like, in no way did I tell this client, "Well, you're just gonna have to stay home," or, like, "You can't go on these trips." Like, I mean, I don't do that, it doesn't sound like you do that either. I'm going out to eat Tex-Mex tonight, and I'm just gonna try to eat a side salad and some guac maybe, as a vegetable, and so I think it can be helpful to think through, like, what is possible and keeping your overall quality of life positive while still seeing these results, which is awesome. And yeah, for somebody like her, again, like, her hypothyroidism really never came up again. Like, I don't think it seemed like it was an issue. The weird weight stalling in the middle could happen to anybody, especially I think if you're at a lower body weight. So just another example of how everybody is so different. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to encourage everybody to sign up for our email newsletter. I'm trying to plug this more. We put all of the content that we come out with every week on there with the podcast, YouTube video, blog posts, all the things. So if you love all of the content and you don't want to miss out, make sure to sign up for it. When you go onto our website, it kind of like first pops up. There's a box you can put in your email there, and we just send out one email a week. But I hope this podcast episode was really helpful to anybody who has hypothyroidism or is curious about it. So thank you so much for coming on and joining me to talk about this topic, Courtney.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Thank you so much for listening to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. For daily weight loss tips and nutrition information, you can find us on Instagram at the.millennial.nutritionist and on TikTok at millennial.nutritionist. If you find this information helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs encouragement on their health journey. See you in the next episode.